The night was silent. The clock on the wall struck 1 a.m. as Elizabeth Turner, a 40-something police officer, came home after a long shift. The city outside lay still, only the soft hum of the wind slipped through the windows, and the golden light from the hallway cast a faint glow across the room. She had just placed her police hat on the table when she heard a frantic knock at the door. At first, Elizabeth thought she was imagining things. Who would visit a police officer at this hour? Then the knocking came again, louder, trembling, desperate. Instinctively, she rested a hand on the gun at her hip as she moved closer. When she opened the door, her heart stopped. Standing there was Sarah, her only daughter, her face pale, her lips bleeding, eyes swollen, clothes torn and disheveled, bruises blooming across her body. "Sarah! My God, what happened to you?" Elizabeth cried, rushing forward to catch her before she fell. Sarah broke down, her voice shaking. "It's him, Mom. Robert hit me because of her." Elizabeth froze. Robert, her son-in-law, the man Sarah once believed was her safe haven, was the monster who had done this. Rage surged through her veins, but the instinct of a mother quickly took over. She carried her daughter inside, cleaned her wounds, and drove her straight to the hospital in the middle of the night. At the hospital, doctors confirmed that Sarah had suffered severe soft tissue injuries with heavy bruising on her back and abdomen, but thankfully no broken bone. When Elizabeth pressed for answers, Sarah sobbed as she spoke. Since the wedding, Robert, once gentle and composed, had changed completely. He had become controlling, jealous, and violent. Every time Sarah came home late or received a message from a male coworker, he would lash out first with words, then with his fists. Recently, she discovered Robert was having an affair with a woman named Denise, a colleague from his office. When she confronted him, he snapped, punching her to the ground, kicking her over and over while screaming, "You're nothing but a parasite. I should never have married you." When she finally escaped, he flooded her phone with threats. "Keep your mouth shut, or you'll lose everything." Elizabeth's hands trembled as she clenched her fists. At that moment, she wasn't just a mother, she was a police officer staring straight at a criminal. The next morning, Elizabeth went to work, not at her precinct, but for justice. She photographed Sarah's injuries, collected the medical reports, and saved every threatening text from Robert. With 20 years in law enforcement, she knew one truth. Without evidence, justice would not stand on their side. She reached out to an old friend, James Monroe, a defense attorney who had once worked with her on domestic violence cases. James agreed to help, but warned her to move carefully. Robert was well-connected, powerful, and dangerous. Days later, as Elizabeth reviewed old documents, she stumbled upon something shocking. Robert and his mistress had forged Sarah's signature to transfer a piece of inherited land property left by Elizabeth's late father to Robert's name. This wasn't just domestic abuse anymore, it was fraud, manipulation, and calculated theft. Elizabeth teamed up with Lieutenant Rosales, her trusted colleague, to begin a quiet investigation. For days, they tracked Robert's movements. Hidden cameras captured him meeting Denise at a bar, exchanging envelopes and furtive kisses. One night, Rosales recorded him bragging drunkenly to a friend. She signed it. "Soon, that whole lot will be mine." That was the final piece Elizabeth needed. But Robert wasn't a fool. He quickly realized he was being watched. He hired an expensive lawyer and spread rumors that Sarah had injured herself to frame him. Online, whispers grew, cruel people calling Sarah a gold digger, a liar, an ungrateful wife. Soon after, Elizabeth received an anonymous letter scrawled in red ink. "If you want your daughter to live, stop now." She read it, smiled bitterly, and said to Rosales, "They think they can scare me? I'm a cop and her mother. Let's see who disappears first." James advised Elizabeth that the case needed one key witness, Denise. So Elizabeth went to find her. They met in the company's parking lot. Denise stiffened when she saw her. Elizabeth approached calmly, holding a folder. "I only need 5 minutes of your time." She handed over a copy of the land transfer document and pointed to the signature at the bottom. "This is your signature, isn't it?" Denise frowned, studying the page, then shook her head. No, I've never signed anything like this. Elizabeth nodded slowly. I know. Robert forged your name to make the transaction look legitimate. You weren't just the other woman, Denise. You were one of his victims. Denise stared at the paper in silence. Her face shifted from confusion to realization to quiet fury. For the first time, she saw Robert for what he truly was, a man who used everyone, loved no one, and believed himself untouchable. Finally, she whispered, I'll testify. I want him to pay for what he's done. And so, three women, a mother, a daughter, and a betrayed mistress, stood together to bring down one ruthless man. The trial began in early spring. Robert walked in wearing a black suit, chin raised, exuding arrogance. His high-priced lawyer followed close behind. Across the courtroom, Sarah sat beside her mother, her hands trembling but steady in spirit. Behind them sat Denise, cold, silent, unflinching. James opened with undeniable evidence. Photographs of the injuries, whatnot, the hospital reports, the forged transfer documents, and a video recording from a neighbor's security camera showing Sarah at 1 a.m., bruised and sobbing, banging on her mother's door. The room fell silent. Some people began to cry. Then Denise took the stand. Her voice was clear, unwavering. Robert didn't just abuse his wife, she said. He forced me to sign fake papers and threatened to destroy me if I told anyone. Robert turned pale. He shouted, denied, raged, but the walls were closing in. The judge raised a hand for silence, then read the verdict. Based on the evidence and testimonies, the court rules in favor of Sarah Turner. All fraudulent transactions are hereby nullified. Assets belonging to Robert Vale are frozen. The case is referred for criminal prosecution for assault, fraud, and witness intimidation. The courtroom erupted. Sarah burst into tears and clung to her mother. Robert was handcuffed right there, his face twisted in disbelief, the mighty man undone by the truth he thought he could bury. Weeks later, light returned to Elizabeth's little house. Sarah continued therapy. She still flinched at loud noises or slamming doors, but each morning she woke to the smell of her mother's coffee and smiled again. One afternoon, she approached Elizabeth holding a job application. Mom, I want to start over, somewhere new. I don't want to be defined by what he did to me. Elizabeth's eyes glistened with pride. Go, sweetheart. Be brave. I'll always be right here. They hugged for a long time, letting the quiet peace wash over them, a peace earned through pain, courage, and unconditional love. Robert Vale received a 12-year sentence for domestic abuse, fraud, and witness intimidation. Denise moved away, sending Elizabeth a letter of gratitude for giving her a chance to make things right. Sarah, now stronger, joined a women's advocacy group to help others like her find their voices again. As for Elizabeth, she returned to duty at the precinct, but her mission had changed. She founded the 1 a.m. Project, a support program for domestic violence survivors named after the hour her daughter had knocked on her door, desperate and broken. When asked why she chose that name, she always smiled softly and said, "Because that was the hour I learned something important. Even in the darkest night, if someone is knocking, light will find its way in." The story ends with Elizabeth sitting on her porch at dawn, a cup of coffee in her hands, the sunrise painting the world gold, wind chimes tinkle softly, and the morning birds sing a quiet promise that after every storm, every brave heart deserves peace. This is not just a story about violence or justice. It's a story about a mother's love, resilience, and the power to rise again. It's proof that even when pain breaks us, love and the courage to fight for what's right can heal everything. Even in the darkest hour, with love and courage, you can still find the dawn. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Actual Life Stories for more true and inspiring stories that remind us of the power of hope, love, and courage.